The new year arrived quietly on Jacob Miller's ranch in rural Montana. Snow covered the wide fields like a white blanket,
one, two,
and the
three,
mountains
push.
in the distance stood tall and silent.
Almost there.
Jacob
Just a
had
bit
lived
more.
on this
Yes.
ranch his entire life. At 40 years old, he was known as a strong, honest, and hardworking man. He woke before sunrise every day, fed the cattle, fixed fences, and worked until his hands ached. Yet when night fell, his house felt empty. No laughter, no shared meals, no one waiting for him by the fire. On New Year's Eve, Jacob sat alone at his wooden kitchen table, staring at an old calendar. He rarely made resolutions, but this year felt different. Loneliness had followed him for too long. Friends from town often told him he needed a wife, someone to share his life with. So he finally made a promise to himself. This year, he would find a wife and start a family. He believed love was something you searched for, worked for, and earned, just like running a ranch. Living far from the city made meeting women difficult. Jacob had tried online dating once, but the conversations felt shallow, and most people didn't understand ranch life. They liked the idea of a cowboy, not the reality of early mornings, mud, and long winters. Still, Jacob was determined. He believed if he tried hard enough, love would come. A few days into the new year, while repairing a broken fence near the road, Jacob noticed a small car stuck in the snow. He walked over and saw a woman struggling to free the tires. She looked cold and frustrated. Jacob offered help without a word, pushing the car while she steered. After a few moments, the car was free. The woman stepped out and smiled gratefully. Her name was Emma Carter. She explained she had just moved from Oregon to take a teaching job at the local school. She was new to the area and had gotten lost. Jacob gave her directions and offered to escort her to town to be safe. As they drove, they talked about the weather, the town, and her new job. Jacob noticed how calm her voice was and how her eyes lit up when she talked about teaching children. Emma noticed Jacob's quiet strength and gentle manners. Their conversation felt easy, natural, and warm, something Jacob hadn't felt in years. When they reached town, Emma thanked him and waved goodbye. Jacob watched her drive away, feeling something unfamiliar stir inside him. He told himself it was just kindness, nothing more. Still, as he returned to his ranch, his New Year's resolution echoed in his mind. He didn't know it yet, but that simple meeting on a snowy morning was the first step toward changing everything he believed about love. Over the next few weeks, Jacob found himself thinking about Emma more than he expected. Life on the ranch continued as usual, early mornings, cold winds, and long hours of work, but something inside him felt different. Every time he drove into town for supplies, he secretly hoped he might see her. He told himself it was only curiosity. After all, his New Year's resolution pushed him to stay alert for any chance at love. Their second meeting happened at the local grocery store. Jacob was loading feed bags when he heard a familiar voice call his name. Emma stood near the counter, smiling as if they were already old friends. They talked for a while, and Jacob offered to help her carry groceries to her car. During the short walk, Emma mentioned she was still settling into her rented house and struggling with small repairs. Without thinking much, Jacob offered his help. That weekend, Jacob visited Emma's house on the edge of town. He fixed a broken door hinge, repaired a leaking pipe, and showed her how to prepare for harsh winters. Emma listened carefully, grateful for his guidance. In return, she made him coffee and homemade cookies. They sat at the small kitchen table, talking about their lives. Emma shared stories of growing up in Oregon and why she chose to teach in a small town. Jacob spoke about the ranch, his parents, and the quiet life he lived. As days passed, their meetings became more frequent. Sometimes Jacob invited Emma to the ranch, showing her the animals and wide open land. Emma was fascinated by the simple beauty of the place. She admitted she had never imagined living near a ranch, but she enjoyed the peace it offered. Jacob liked seeing the ranch through her eyes, as if it had become new again. Despite these warm moments, Jacob felt restless. His resolution stayed heavy in his thoughts. He began wondering if Emma could be the answer to his loneliness. Without realizing it, he started pushing things forward too quickly, offering constant help, planning future visits, and speaking about long-term ideas. Emma noticed the change. One evening, while they walked through the snowy town streets, she gently stopped and asked him to slow down. Emma explained that she valued their connection but believed love needed time to grow. She shared how she once rushed into a relationship because she was afraid of being alone, only to be left heartbroken. She didn't want either of them to repeat that mistake. Her words were calm but honest. Jacob listened quietly, feeling embarrassed yet thoughtful. For the first time, he questioned his belief that love was something you could force through effort alone. As he walked back to his truck that night, the cold air felt sharper than usual. He realized that maybe his New Year's resolution was guiding him, but it might also be blinding him. Emma wasn't a solution to his loneliness, she was a person, and understanding that changed how he saw everything. After his conversation with Emma, Jacob began to see things differently. For the first time in years, he stopped measuring his life by what was missing. He focused on his daily routines without rushing his thoughts toward the future. The ranch felt calmer, and so did his heart. Emma's words stayed with him, reminding him that real connections grow slowly, like crops that need patience and care. Jacob and Emma continued spending time together, but now with a lighter rhythm. They met for coffee in town, attended small community events, and shared long conversations without expectations. Jacob learned to listen more and speak less. Emma noticed the change and felt more comfortable around him. Their bond deepened naturally, built on trust instead of pressure. One afternoon, Emma visited the ranch again, eager to learn more about Jacob's work. He taught her how to feed the horses and explained how each season demanded something different from the land. Emma listened closely, asking thoughtful questions. She said ranch life reminded her that not everything in life could be rushed. Jacob smiled, realizing she was teaching him the same lesson without even trying. As winter slowly faded, the town prepared for its annual New Year community bonfire, a tradition held later in the season when people could safely gather. The night of the bonfire, the air was cold but lively. Families and neighbors gathered, sharing food, laughter, and stories. Jacob and Emma stood side by side, watching the flames rise into the dark sky. In that warm glow, Jacob felt a quiet sense of peace. He wasn't anxious. He wasn't searching. He was simply present. Emma looked at him and smiled, and in that moment, Jacob realized something important. He no longer felt lonely. His happiness no longer depended on fulfilling a resolution or chasing an idea of love. It came from connection, understanding, and shared moments. Emma spoke about her students and how teaching in a small town had changed her. Jacob talked about how he once believed strength meant handling everything alone. Emma gently told him that strength also meant allowing others into your life. Her words touched him deeply. Later that night, as the bonfire died down, Jacob walked Emma to her car. Snowflakes drifted softly around them. He thanked her, not just for the evening, but for helping him see himself more clearly. Emma replied that sometimes people enter our lives not to fill a role, but to help us grow. Driving back to the ranch, Jacob reflected on the past weeks. His New Year's resolution had led him to Emma, but she had taught him something greater. Love was not about finding someone to end loneliness. It was about becoming someone who could truly share life with another person. In that realization, Jacob felt ready for whatever came next, without fear or hurry. Spring arrived quietly on Jacob's ranch, melting the last traces of snow and bringing new life to the fields. The air smelled of fresh grass, and the sound of birds singing replaced the stillness of winter. Jacob walked among the cattle, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face. Life on the ranch was demanding, but it now felt lighter somehow. Emma had become a part of this rhythm, not as a goal to achieve, but as someone whose presence made the ordinary extraordinary. Over the weeks, Emma visited the ranch more often, helping with small chores, exploring the fields, and laughing with Jacob as they shared quiet moments. Their bond had grown effortlessly, without the pressure of expectations. Jacob realized he no longer thought about his New Year's resolution. It had faded into the background because he had discovered something far more meaningful: connection, understanding, and companionship built on trust and patience. One afternoon, they sat together on the porch, watching the golden sunlight spread across the fields. Jacob held a warm mug of coffee while Emma traced patterns in the condensation on her cup. They didn't need to speak, the silence itself was comfortable. Jacob finally admitted to himself that love wasn't about finding the perfect partner or ticking off a resolution. It was about being present, listening, and caring for someone genuinely. "Do you ever think about why we met?" Emma asked softly, her eyes reflecting the sunlight. Jacob smiled. "I used to think it was chance, but now I think it was timing. I needed to learn how to slow down before I could truly see what mattered. Emma nodded. Sometimes, people come into our lives not to give us what we want, but to teach us what we need. Jacob looked at her, realizing she had been teaching him all along. Her presence had reshaped his understanding of love, patience, and life itself. He felt a deep gratitude for her, not as a prize to claim, but as a partner who had opened his heart to something he didn't know he could feel. Days turned into weeks, and the ranch bloomed with spring flowers and new beginnings. Jacob and Emma continued their shared routines, growing together naturally. They spent evenings talking under starlit skies, mornings tending the animals, and weekends exploring the countryside. There was no rush, no deadlines, no pressure to define the relationship. Instead, their love grew quietly, rooted in respect, trust, and genuine friendship. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Jacob turned to Emma. "Thank you," he said sincerely, "for helping me understand love, for being patient with me, and for showing me what it really means to care." Emma smiled, her hand brushing his. "And thank you for letting me in. Love isn't about finding the right person. It's about growing together." Jacob realized that in letting go of his resolution, he had found more than he ever imagined. Emma wasn't someone to fill a void, she was someone who had made his life richer, calmer, and full of warmth. And in that lesson, Jacob finally understood the true meaning of love. Not something to chase, but something to nurture. As they sat together, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, Jacob felt a sense of peace he had never known. The ranch, the land, the quiet life, all of it now held promise, not because of a goal, but because of love found the way it was meant to be, slowly, naturally, and completely.